Okay, so today I want to discuss an article appearing in Honi Soit. I've never heard of that before, but it's spelled Honisoit. And the title of the article is Against Anti-Natalism in the Anthropocene, and it's by Kayla Hill. So right off the bat, I don't know if she's doing this on purpose or not, but she's conflating two things. She's conflating anti-natalism with climate anti-natalism. They're similar, but they're different. And I'm hoping in this video what I can do is basically show you the difference between the two. And then she kind of throws in eugenics, which is kind of not anti-natalism, but it's kind of in there, and it's kind of packed into these dense paragraphs where you kind of have to unpack a lot of stuff. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'll convince you or convince myself, but here we go. So one of the first things she says is the West has long advocated for anti-natalism. Notice she's just saying anti-natalism. She's not saying climate anti-natalism. Even in the title, I read the title to you as well. She said against anti-natalism. She's not saying climate anti-natalism. So one of the first things she says is basically the West has long advocated for anti-natalism, but historically only against black and brown people. Billionaires will throw money into Africa and South Asia for contraception programs, including sterilization. This is eugenics, invoking arguments about the outrageous suffering such babies would endure under poverty, suffering so profound that it would be too cruel to have them at all. So my understanding is that there are family planning programs happening all over the world. If these programs are voluntary and people are allowed to have free choice over whether or not they have children and how many children, that's not eugenics, that's just family planning. I also understand that there have been in the past programs that were questionable in terms of offering incentives for not having kids and sterilization programs. That would be eugenics, but just kind of throwing billionaires under the umbrella of eugenics is probably not the safest thing to do intellectually. So I would have a problem with that. But that's kind of beside the point. But I just wanted to clear up that eugenics is not anti-natalism. Anti-natalism is basically that all people should stop having children. It doesn't matter what race or anything like that. It doesn't matter which country you're from or anything like that. All people should not have kids. So the first sentence, the West has long advocated for anti-natalism, but historically only against black and brown people. That's not anti-natalism either. That's called selective pronatalism, because what you're essentially doing is you're saying some people should have children, and that's not anti-natalism. Anti-natalism is the belief that nobody should have children. So if you're saying some people should have children, the better term for that would be selective pronatalism. It just works more precisely, that term. The third thing about what she said is basically, if you go into a country where there's a population bomb happening, it's not clear to me that you're targeting black and brown people. You're targeting a population explosion or a potential population explosion. It just so happens that where it's happening, those people are black and brown. But it's not clear to me that you're targeting them because they're black and brown. And I think that's something that happens a lot these days, because we have this propensity to look at the world through identity, right? We have this propensity to look at everything through inherited traits, like what skin color do you have, what country did you come from, what religion you are. We tend to boil everything down to identity, but I don't think it works in every case. I think we're dealing with a bunch of different parameters, and those parameters just happen to affect certain types of people, certain populations, right? So the second thing that I highlighted here is where she says a moral high ground cannot be reached on the basis of having prevented unimaginable suffering for a 5-year-old that doesn't exist. So she's targeting Benatar's asymmetry here. She's basically saying that there is no value to non-existence. And I'm reading a book right now, Contemporary Anti-Natalism, where all the authors in the book are going after Benatar's asymmetry based on this same principle, that you can't assign value to people that don't exist. The problem comes in where when you do exist, suffering begins. So relative to non-existence, it's not saying intrinsically there's a value to non-existence, because when you don't exist, there's nothing that can benefit you or anything that can harm you. You just don't exist. It's what some of the authors I'm reading would call a neutral position. Like it's not good or bad, because it's not good or bad for someone, because someone doesn't exist. But I think what Benatar is saying is you're talking about a relative moral standing. So if you look at existence, there's suffering. Non-existence, there's no suffering. So if you keep things in the non-existent category, there's no suffering, and that is morally superior to human suffering. So, and I'm just boiling it down here. That's being very concise. I mean, there's entire essays written about this stuff, right? That's what she's missing here. And then she goes on to say, tomorrow and next week and next decade, we will wake up to the same horrific conditions as yesterday unless we do something about it. And I think that's kind of like utopian thinking. She's kind of assuming that if we put in the work, we're going to create this grand society that's perfect and there's going to be no suffering. I think that's dreaming a little bit. Like utopia won't ever happen. But maybe what she's doing is she's speaking in the context of climate change. So in the fifth to last paragraph of her article, she does refer to it as climate anti-natalism. So she says, not only is the selective outrage towards climate change racist, but the philosophy that itself that underpins climate anti-natalism is reductive. Central to this anti-natalism is a grim orientation towards the future, a future that also accepts defeat, that is embedded in ruthless pursuit of money and the white man exerting mastery over the land. So that's a lot to say as well. I think the future is going to be very different. It's not going to be the white man rules. I think countries like China and India are becoming economic superpowers, and I think China is going to overtake the United States and Europe. So I don't think this whole kind of white man thing is productive to talk about. Like it just, the world is changing, and people like this author, like she keeps referring to the past, right? And past mistakes that have to be corrected for in the future, but not only corrected for, those past mistakes are still existent in the present, and we have to continually pay for them, right? So I'm very skeptical about that. But anyway, going back to climate anti-natalism is the belief that you shouldn't have children because of climate change. So it's very conditional, whereas anti-natalism, just pure anti-natalism, is saying that you shouldn't have children at all because the inherent or the intrinsic state of existence is suffering. Like human beings suffer no matter what environmental conditions are placed on them. They suffer because of environmental conditions as well, but the consciousness itself, like human consciousness itself, is built to suffer. That's how we learn. That's how we function. That's how we move about each day. We're built for one of the people on my page. They basically said that we're built for motivation, not satisfaction, right? So suffering keeps you motivated. It keeps you moving and searching out new opportunities, etc., for survival, basically. So that's about it. I was a little bit all over the place for this one, so forgive me. But But yeah, that's pretty much it. The article is Against Anti-Natalism in the Anthropocene, and it's by Kayla Hill, and it was written in August 20th, 2025. So yeah, that's about it. Okay, bye.